Okay guys, I'm your MC for the day. I'd like to introduce Dennis. He's a university graduate. He's illusioned with the left-wing infiltration of our universities. Bring it away, Dennis.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for the opportunity to speak. As I look out amongst you here today, I'm trying to identify the racists in the crowd. I'm trying to identify the bigots and the Islamophobes and the xenophobes and any other phobes that the left would label you with being.
They're in the car
simply because you have a legitimate concern and you want to express it. I just want to tell you something about myself. In the 1950s, both of my sets of grandparents came to this country from Europe. They got off on the docks of Fremantle and they were part of a migrant wave which helped to build Australia into the country that it is today. They worked hard here, they assimilated, and they built this country into the greatest democracy the world has ever seen. Or they helped to do it, they were part of it. I have no ancestry in this country prior to 1950, and I'm extremely proud of my immigrant heritage. Patriotic, freedom-loving Australians support immigration. It's been the backbone of this nation and helped us to make us what we are today. If you come to these rallies and you oppose immigration on the basis of race, or if you have a swastika tattooed to your body or on your clothing, you do this cause no favours and make us fair game for the left.
Good call, well said.
That being said, what disillusions me today is that immigration is not the same as it was in previous years, and for two main reasons. Firstly, our immigration intake then was mostly from countries similar to our own in culture.
Yes.
And second, the motivation for people coming then was different than what it is today. Everyone wants a stable, peaceful, tolerant society, don't we?
Yes.
The question we need to ask ourselves is, how do we achieve this? Is it by bringing people here from countries which have a similar cultural background to ourselves? People who see the world as we do. People who come from countries with the same democratic systems, the same civil and religious liberties. People who have the same perceptions and expectations. People who will assimilate and become one with us? Or is it by bringing people here from countries whose culture is not only totally different from our own, but directly opposed to it? Is it by bringing people here whose culture is anti-women, where men have the legal right to beat their wife if she disrespects him? And anti-children, where men have the legal right to marry prepubescent children? How can people who think those things are legitimate ever fit into a country which is enlightened as ours is? Is it by bringing people here who despise our civil and religious freedom? Sharia law is in fact a church-state union, which means that the state enforces on its citizens the mandates of the church, or in the case of Islam, a perverted, subversive ideology. This is a concept which directly conflicts not only with our democratic processes, but with our constitution itself. How can people who come from this ideological mindset suddenly start living in a democratic country without being conflicted, and has been seen acting on that state of confliction in ways that are a risk to the rest of us? Is it by bringing people here from countries which haven't changed in centuries and even millennia? Countries which haven't been through progressive movements of enlightenment and social revolution, which has led to a greater understanding of human issues as Western culture has. If you think you can take people from that mentality and drop them in a modern, democratic, enlightened society and have social cohesion, then you are seriously deluded, and the evidence is against you. The only outcome of such a divisive social experiment, as has been seen, is a fight for cultural supremacy. And no matter how insignificant some people claim that threat to be, it must stop now. You don't put out a bushfire at its most devastating stage. You do it as soon as the risk is seen.
That's right.
Multiculturalism and multiracialism are two different things. People, regardless of race, should be welcome in Australia if they want to work hard and become one of us. People who love the country that has taken them in and have an allegiance to us over any other nation or culture. Yep. But if you're here and you despise us, our values, our democracy, our equality for women, and our civil and religious freedoms, then why are you here? And why do we as a country continue to allow people who hold these sentiments to come here? It's not racist to discriminate as to where our immigration comes from. It's common sense. No one is saying that immigrants shouldn't be able to keep and cherish their heritage, but not when that heritage clashes with the already established culture in ways which cause division, social tension, and even physical risk to our citizens. When people come to Australia, there should be a social expectation that they will assimilate with us. But this hasn't been the case. Australia has been irresponsible and controlled by political correctness with regard to our immigration intake, and it has been at the hands of socialist governments.
That's right.
Excuse me. The serious issues we now face as a society is because of those immigration policies. Socialism, the great philosophical hoax. A warped, idealistic, irrational view of the world where people like the Greens and Labor's left think we can all link hands across the world and have a big group hug and the world will be a better place. Well, guess what? The real world isn't like that. It contains people who would love to see our demise. People who hate everything about us, every aspect of our cultural normalities. And what's the left's response to this? Bring as many of them here as you can and let them roam free in our communities. And then, when it becomes evident that this uncompromising, politically correct, failed social policy doesn't work, and Australians are at risk of attack, violence and death from these people, then it's time to find the root causes of terrorism. Hey, tell you something. Whenever a socialist tells you that you've got to get to the root causes of terrorism, you know what they're really saying? It's not the terrorists' fault for committing acts of barbarity and atrocity. It's yours and mine because we haven't cuddled them enough. There's no mystery to radicalisation. There's no complexity to it. Those are just weasel words used by the left to try to take the responsibility of the perpetrators of radicalisation away from them and put them onto you. Don't let them do it. Radicalisation solely exists because Islam is a corrupt culture that hates anything and everything that disagrees with it and thinks it has the right to kill you if you do so. Muslim children in this country are taught by their parents to hate everything about Australia. In their mosques, their leaders teach them the same. This is the foundation of radicalisation. It's not because we haven't given them enough cuddles. The left are very quick to tell white men they need to take ownership for their actions in relation to domestic violence, as they should. They are quick to tell us that the responsibility for rape lies with the rapist and the victim blaming will not be tolerated, as they should. But somehow Islam gets a free pass when they commit acts of terrorism and the blame lies with the rest of society for not being nice enough to them. Is it not enough we brought them here from whatever shithole they came from? Is it not enough we gave them a first world, technologically advanced country to live in? Is it not enough we gave them freedom in this country, justice in our courts, equality for their women, a world-class education system for their children, a world-class health system, welfare, public housing, and so much more?
Flushing toilet.
But the root causes of terrorism still lie with us. Why is it that the left panders to Islam? Why do they protect Islam? Groups like the Greens, the so-called great humanitarians, the self-professed champions of women's rights and the enemies of sexism and misogyny. They would call a white man a chauvinist for holding a door open for a woman. But where are they on the blatant sexism and oppression of women, which is Islam? They are silent. Sharia law, the foundation of Islam, permits a man to beat his wife if she disobeys or disrespects him. Do you think Muslims in this country don't still have that mindset? Even in the so-called moderate country of Saudi Arabia, women are not allowed to drive cars or be seen in public without a male chaperone.
That's why they cover the bruises up.
Perhaps this is why the former Grand Mufti of Australia stated that women who dress immodestly invite rape, claiming that when they do not wear the Islamic headdress, they are like meat that is left out to be eaten by cats. Is this not blatant disempowering and abuse of women? Muslim women, even in Australia, are not permitted to pray in their mosques. They must do so at home. Is this not sexual discrimination? Where is Sarah Hanson-Young? Where is Tanya Plebiscik and Penny Wong and the champions of feminism on these issues? Where are their cries of sexism and misogyny? They are nowhere to be seen or heard. And why? Because political correctness demands the denial of reality. Yet our Prime Minister can wink during a radio interview and they'll take him to the cleaners for it. And let's not forget Islam's pedophilic attitude towards children. Again, Sharia permits men to marry children as young as 6. Well, we don't have Sharia here, you say? True, but do you seriously think that people who come to Australia from a cultural Sharia background can suddenly stop thinking in that way? There have been reported cases of children being made to marry older men in this country under private Islamic ceremonies, and of Islamic fathers sending their child daughters overseas to be married off to older men. Practices which are deplored by Australian culture. The so-called prophet, who they all revere, was in fact a pedophile who was married to a 9-year-old girl. Is a man who has a 9-year-old wife not a pedophile? Why is it offensive to say that? Pedophilia is celebrated and promoted in Islamic culture. Where is the left on this? Where are the protectors of children who would hunt a Catholic priest to the ends of the earth for child sex crimes? As they should. They are again silent, because the left, it seems, will protect even the vilest of Islamic cultural practices. Female infant genital mutilation is practiced in Australia. Melbourne's Royal Women's Hospital reports treating over 500 females a year who have been affected by this hideous practice, a practice that is illegal in this country. Who knows how many unreported cases there are? I have never heard a spokesperson for the left voice their outrage or even concern on this issue. Why is it that such an evidence-based sex crime as this is being ignored by the Royal Commission into Child Sex Abuse, while it becomes increasingly fixated with the allegations of abuse in Australian detention centres? Because that Royal Commission, like all aspects of our culture, has been hijacked by a left, cultural, Marxist worldview, and we need to take a stand against it. I won't be much longer. I'm nearly done. Western culture has been transformed over the past 50 years because of the infiltration of Marxist idealism, and it has changed us for the worst. This is because political correctness is the underlying philosophy of the left. Political correctness is the idea that people should be careful not to use words or actions that could offend a certain group of people, and it has spawned an entire generation that has lost the ability to know right from wrong and good from evil, because it forbids its adherents to make informed judgments about the world around them. Political correctness disallows its fundamental believers the right to make these decisions about the society they live in, because to do so runs the risk of offending someone. So the only judgment they can make is "I won't judge," which disables them from detecting evil and immorality in the world. This is why they are blind to the dangers and inherent evils which exist in Islam, and this is why they come to disrupt and oppose patriot rallies. These true enemies of rational society and their cancerous philosophies are what we need to take a stand against, because it is they who are the vehicle which allow Islam and all of its subversive beliefs and practices to flourish in this country. Even when Tony Abbott asked all people in this country to be part of Team Australia, the left were infuriated. Only the left could see a word like team as being divisive. Such is the effect of political correctness. Sorry, am I going too long? I just got a little bit more. Alright, it's the last page. Sorry. So how do we take a stand against this corrupt philosophical worldview? Start with your children. There was once a time when school was about numeracy, literacy and applied learning, but it's no longer objective. It's now a product of left ideology. Today, science is about saving the planet, saving the reef, saving the whales and saving water. Health education is about condoms and the celebration and promotion of any form of sexuality. Social studies is about enforcing the teaching of Aboriginal culture on the entire non-Aboriginal school population, regardless of whether parents feel this necessary. History is always taught through the prism of shame, that we all need to be embarrassed and ashamed of the wrongs done in colonial history while the overwhelming achievements are ignored. At the same time, the dangerous, corrupting dogma of political correctness is subliminally infused on vulnerable young minds. All this has occurred because the education system, the means which largely prepares young people for the world, has been stolen by the left. From kindergarten it begins and continues throughout primary school. In high school it intensifies, and by the time kids get to university they are like putty in the hands of the atheistic communist left, ready for their final and most ideological years of indoctrination in Australian universities. Once they leave university, they embark on the world as puppets of the left, believing ideology is objective reality. A prime example being climate change, where socialism masquerades as environmentalism. I applaud this government for trying to overhaul the Marxist ideology which dominates our schools. I have young children who attend public school, and I have to have a daily debrief with them, and I urge you to do the same. Don't just ask your kids what they learned at school today, rather find out how they learned it. See what political spin was put on it and correct them. If you don't like it, contact the school. We have to start somewhere. We recently had National Sorry Day. My 8-year-old daughter came home and told me she had been told that she and all of us need to be sorry. My innocent 8-year-old daughter, who has never done anything to anyone in her life, was told she needed to be sorry for something she knows nothing about. I was outraged. After emailing the school and voicing my indignation, I sat my daughter down and corrected what she had been told, telling her that she is in nothing to be sorry for. National Sorry Day is a product of political correctness and militant socialism. In conclusion, the imposition of Islamic culture needs to be opposed. Governments at the federal, state and local levels must hear the will of the people. It's not a case of too little too late. Stop building mosques and Islamic schools. Stop teaching languages other than English as the primary language. Stop allowing the discrimination and abuse of women because it's cultural. Stop allowing people leniency on cultural grounds. But more so, stand against the enablers of this attempted cultural genocide, the socialist left. Thank you.